Hi everybody, welcome to our Facebook session. I hope you've all got your lunch and you're sitting there about to have lunch. So it's a privilege for me today to have lunch with all of you in a virtual space.
Yeah, Jodie's frozen.
Oh no, Jodie's coming back. We can do some of our own introductions maybe while Jodie's coming back on. So my name is Rania and I am an MS ambassador for MS Limited. And we've got Jodie back.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Keep going, Rania. Thanks for that good recovery.
That's all right. I was just introducing myself as an ambassador for MS Limited. Did you want to take over again?
Yep, we'll see how my internet's running. I don't know it's been good all day, so I don't know what's happening with that there, but maybe I will. You can't really turn your camera off in this one, so we'll see how we go. So pause for a minute. So as I was saying, it's my name's Jodie Hartson. I'm executive manager at Multiple Sclerosis Limited, and I've also been a MS nurse for the last 20 years, and as a nurse, I've had the privilege to share the lives of many women and their journeys on MS. And I guess in the cone of silence, we've had lots of stories of sadness, the scary bits, and the challenges of being a woman. And it's certainly been a very privileged role that I've been able to play to share that journey. And I've been also very, very privileged with these two amazing women, Rania and Marie, and the third woman, their mum, who I also love a lot. But I'd like to introduce you, and I will take the time while Rania is giving her little girl the bottle there. Marie, tell us about yourself and a bit about your story.
Me? Hi, I'm Marie. I'm Rania's sister, and I've had MS for 20 years. So it's been a while. I have my goal was to actually try to keep myself really fit and healthy and maintain my mobility. I initially was told that I shouldn't have children, and I was grateful that I found a neurologist who said, no, that's rubbish and you can. And I suppose having children, my biggest fear was, how will my MS be? Because I already was experiencing quite a bit of fatigue, brain fog, and I just thought this was going to be impossible. And having children was the best thing I ever did. One of the biggest fears for me was I was told that after you have children, about the 5-6 month mark, you have an attack. And for both boys, I did. With AJ, I lost my taste and lost quite a bit of weight. And initially, they didn't know it was my MS. They assumed it was everything else but, until Helmut, the amazing man at Box Hill, said, oh, yes, it's very rare. Only 2 people in the world have it, and you're the second. And I'm like, oh, awesome. So that was all solved with methylpred. And then with Geordie, I lost my eyesight. And that was really, really scary. But with the help of Jodie and MS Connect, it was amazing, because I always had someone to talk to and someone to help me guide me through all my problems and all my issues. But living with MS has been definitely a struggle. And before I found MS Connect, I just thought I was never going to be able to get through it. And then MS Connect found me, and I haven't looked back.
That must have been really scary to be told that you couldn't have children originally.
Yeah.
So, I mean, MS was diagnosed a long time ago, and we know a lot more about it now. In terms of, I think it's rare that we get that message. Occasionally, I still do hear it, but that's pretty rare. But it must have been. Tell us a bit how that made you feel.
I was devastated. I'll never forget the year. It was 2002. My sister, I was told in June. I was diagnosed in June, and my sister was pregnant with her first child, and I remember telling my sister how angry I was that she was having a baby, and I felt bad because I didn't want to feel like that because I was so happy for her, but I felt like this was never going to happen for me, and it was horrible. I had to tell my sister. I had to tell her. I go, "Oh, I'm so sorry, but this is how I'm feeling, and I know I shouldn't feel like this, but it's how I'm feeling." It was horrible, and I just thought that my life was over because I wasn't able to have children because that was one thing that I always wanted. I was gutted. There was really nothing more to say. It was awful.
And what made you go out and seek another opinion, not sit back and say, well, this is what it is. I guess I have the privilege of knowing you, so I know that you would do that anyway. But for the sake of everybody else, how did you kind of negotiate that?
I actually looked online and did every diet possible, lost a lot of weight, and then my husband, who is extraordinarily supportive of me, said to me, we need to go see another neurologist, and we did, and it was the best thing I ever did, and he was amazing. And he was the one that actually referred me on to Box Hill. He said, I'm not a specialist in MS, and I think these specialists will be amazing for you. And it's not that I want to get rid of you. I just think you will be treated better with those who specialize in MS. And it was amazing. So it was just a step forward for me. And I think my life completely changed. I decided to get into fitness. I decided to become a personal trainer. I won the Win for Gold MS scholarship, which paid for my my Cert 3 and 4 in fitness. So I became a personal trainer, and then that just went on to doing all of my Pilates courses and hoping to treat people with chronic illnesses, and just trying to get through the message through that, if you keep moving and you are fit and it's not impossible to remain mobile for the extent of the disease, because MS is hard to live with sometimes, and we know that. Rania and I both know that.
And so when you were thinking about all that time, your boys are, how old's your oldest now?
16.
So 16. So that's 16 years ago, quite a while ago now. What sort of things were you thinking about at that time in terms of having MS and getting pregnant? And what did you think was really hard to discuss? Like, what sort of things do you think, where do I go to? What are these what were the sort of hard conversations at that time?
What am I going to do with my medication? Am I going to get worse? Are my symptoms going to go crazy? There was never, I think I was on betaferon at that point, and I just felt like I was in the dark. I had no idea. I didn't feel like I knew what questions to ask even. Was I going to be okay? I'm going to be pregnant. I'm not on any medication. How's my body going to take it? Am I going to get permanent damage? There were so many questions I would have loved to ask and didn't ask because I was embarrassed. I didn't know what to say, and I didn't know who to ask. And that was the hardest because I wasn't with Box Hill yet. So I really felt, but was I with Box Hill? No, I don't think I was yet. But during the pregnancy, I got connected with you guys, and that was, and at least I could have. I asked you, Jody. You're probably one of the major people that I asked. But the questions, it was just the unknown, not knowing how I was going to be, not knowing. And I was told by Mark Marriott that as soon as the baby turns 5 or 6 months, I was going to have an attack, and that scared the life out of me. Because I didn't know what it was going to be, how I was going to feel. Will I be able to look after my child? So there were so many unknowns. I could be here forever trying to work it through. There was just so many things I didn't know.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I will reassure the audience that that not everyone has an attack after pregnancy, although it is more common. And just to reassure that that's not every pregnancy will result in an attack afterwards, an MS relapse after the pregnancy, but it can happen. So we are very mindful that we need to take action now. But fast forward 16 years, and Rani has just had her first beautiful little baby girl. But I imagine that there'd be some differences and similarities. So, Rania, can you tell me a little bit about your story?
Yeah, 100%. I think the similarities will always be that the unknown is always there. So there's always the worry. There's always the unknown about the relapses and what your medication is going to do, and not knowing how you're going to be afterwards or during. So I feel like that will always. Sorry, that's definitely the similarities, but the differences that I felt from Marie were that there is so much more support that I feel that I had around me, from what Marie experienced to being with Box Hill and Dr. Marriott, and having you there as my nurse, being able to guide me in terms of being on different medications, switching medication, and then having to get off it at the right time and be off it for a good amount of time. But also all the preparation before even getting off medication, before trying to conceive, is huge, because it makes such a big difference, especially for someone with MS, to be able to be well while having MS. So the whole change of diet, what vitamins to take, all of that is not something you really discuss when you're in your appointment with your neurologist, because they're obviously so focused on the lesions on your brain or your spine and making sure that they don't progress, that you kind of miss those conversations that are about everything else, the whole plethora of what else comes with having multiple sclerosis and all the other ailments that it causes, or that you've got from whatever medication that you've been on. So I know for me, I really valued every time I came to Dr. Marriott and you saw me before he did, because I would unload on you the questions that I had about what should I do before I get off medication? Do you think it's the right thing to get off medication now? Do you think I'm well enough to be able to stop medication and then try to conceive? What's going to happen when I'm not on medication? Am I going to stop walking again? It's the unknowns are so massive. So it's just to have that support from you guys, and then also MS Limited is huge. I think I've had MS for 12 years. For 5 years, I didn't speak about it at all until MS Limited came into my life. And then once they came into my life, from reference from Marie, because she'd already dealt with them, it completely changed for me. I feel like I finally was able to accept that I had MS. I was able to heal mentally from it. And then they were able to help me with the things that you don't think of, like being able to work with your workplace to help you work from home, because trying to get into work, the fatigue is ridiculous. And just trying to retain a normal life while having MS is really difficult. Like cleaning the shower when you can't lift your arm. Sometimes no one thinks about how difficult that would be, but it causes us so much stress. So to have MS Limited be there to support those things that no one else really thinks about, or your neurologist doesn't really care about, because they're obviously trying to keep our brains as healthy as possible, is really big. And I think that trying to come to the decision to have a baby after a massive relapse, and feeling what it felt like not to feel your legs or your arms, and being worried that what if I have a baby and then that happens and I'm not able to look after it. So to have that support to be able to get you through that is huge. And because of what Marie went through and having her relapses after her babies, I felt like I was able to make a good solid decision that 6 weeks after she was born, I got back on my treatment to make sure that I was able to look after her and make that percentage of me relapsing a lot less. So I've had my treatment 6 weeks after she was born, and touch wood, I've been able to, get up in the middle of the night when she wakes up and not feeling, I'm super tired, but my MS is under control. So that's a good thing.
That's good.
Yes, that is a good thing. I think that sharing of stories is so important, isn't it? Like that, being
Yeah.
able to share as women, being able to share our stories is how we learn and how we get tips from each other, and how we I have had so many stories of all sorts of things about having MS, but also about just being a woman and being a mum. And I think we have as many conversations about different treatments as we do as what it's like to sort of have sons or be mums, and that story telling each other and being able to have someone to talk to is so important. And another thing that I think is a real challenge for women with MS too is that whole blaming everything on MS, and that whole negotiation of it's all the MS, particularly with delightful hormonal variations. And I know, Marie, you had lots of times when your thyroid hormone was going up and down, and I think that sort of it's another common women's health issue. So tell us a bit about how you negotiated that, and what that was like for you in the midst of it all. Mm-hmm.
I actually thought I was going mental because I didn't know it was my thyroid, and I already suffered from a lot of fatigue, and I didn't realize that my thyroid was causing more of that. And then when I finally tried to actually get someone to help, they were like, oh, but that's just your MS. And I'm like, but what do you mean? And no, it can't be. And it's not bad enough to be medicated, but it really amplifies every single symptom that I've ever had in my MS. And I was moody, and I was grumpy, and I didn't know that was a symptom of the thyroid. And I honestly I think I was angry and I was mad because I thought, well, this is not fair. I've already got MS. Seriously, do I need to have a problem with my thyroid? Come on. And it was a struggle. I know I've got such a supportive family, and without them and without my mum and my husband, and they go, it's okay, you'll be fine, it would have been a lot harder. And, calling you, Jody, and crying on the phone, and just needing that release, and knowing that no matter what I did, it's not going to make too much of a difference. And it was just something that I had to live with and sort of work my way around it. But try to not to be as worked, get more relaxation, try to actually have moments to myself, sort of work out a routine where I could actually get myself organized, make sure I've maybe cooked for 2 days rather than every day. I had to change the way I thought through my activities. But yeah, my thyroid was terrible, and actually still is. So I still struggle with it till today. So
yeah, and you had to sort of, and it's not an uncommon story where you have to push to be heard, and to sort of get the test done, get people to think that this is not just MS. Rania, have you had any experiences similar where you've sort of had to push hard to say, hey, it's not MS, think about something else?
Yeah, I feel like a few times there have been things like that. Like I've had the same thing with my thyroid. The same similar thing happened where I started losing heaps of weight and my hair started falling out. And then you go to, or you're not feeling well. I've had lots of stomach problems and like IBS problems and things like that. And then they're always just like, oh, you should go see a neurologist. So I actually ended up in emergency, I think 2 years ago, because my GP just kept telling me that, it's your neurologist. You need to speak to him. It's probably connected. It's nothing. Your blood tests aren't showing anything. Then I ended up having extremely bad irritable bowels, and among other things, but they never picked up on it because I don't know if they're too scared to to say what it is, or just because MS is in the brain and can impact a lot of things, so they just default to that. But I feel like for me it was more difficult in the beginning, but now I feel like I have a voice. I can advocate for myself more, and I do question a lot more before I either go ask my neurologist or go to my GP. And I think that just comes with time. I think it's not a great thing, but I feel like we're seasoned professionals now when it comes to MS. We've both had it for quite some time, and both of us, although we're sisters and share the same blood, we have extremely different MS symptoms, and treatments have affected us differently. So we kind of have quite a bit of knowledge in terms of that. So in that sense, we're lucky that we can advocate for ourselves, and we do know, when things get pushed aside, to keep pushing. And I think we get a little bit of that from our mum as well, because in the beginning, when I was fainting and went numb on the right side of my face, my mum was demanding an MRI, but all the doctors were saying, no, there's no way that she has MS. Two sisters in one family can't have MS. And if it wasn't for our mum pushing and making them give me another MRI and making sure that I got to see a neurologist, it probably would have been much longer for me to be diagnosed, and I wouldn't have been lucky to get diagnosed so young and been able to stop the progression of it quickly. So yeah, it's a big roller coaster. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that sense of some things that the neurologist is the default position for lots of GPs on everything, and then the neurologist appointment is only 15 minutes, and then they're not necessarily women's health experts either. And I think that sort of that advocacy, in my experience, that advocacy for yourself, and not just sort of going, it's too hard now, and I'm going back and forth in between people, and no one's communicating with anybody, and so and this person doesn't know this blood test, and that person doesn't know that blood test. It's really difficult to not only have those conversations about things that are affecting you as a woman, but then also the double challenge of having to advocate for yourself. And that's a real, I think we experience it as women anyway, but adding MS to it, it just adds another layer. And so what tips, Marie, would you give for women if you said, in terms of advocating for yourself?
I wish I was like this before, but now I would say don't be embarrassed. Go to the people that are available to actually listen to you and hear your story and help you, especially MS Limited. To get on board and just ask. And nothing's too embarrassing to ask. To be honest with you, I wish I had this available to me a lot sooner, because it was a lot of years before I did. And when I was able to feel comfortable with someone and actually just open up, and my concerns were actually answered, it made it so much easier, and it has allowed me to open up a lot more than I have previously. And also get onto like the sites, like on Rania Instagram. It's awesome because Rania shares everything, and and so you don't feel alone. And I'm not taking a dig or anything. Yeah, you don't. Oh my God, someone else feels exactly the same as me. So get onto other things and just know you're not alone. There are so many things that you can access. Because there were things that I didn't have when I was diagnosed all those years ago, and it's awesome that they're there now. So I would just talk out, and then maybe if you're not comfortable, get onto this like Instagram and get onto the sites, because it's also and then maybe I send a message if you don't feel comfortable talking to somebody. Because I remember when I first had it, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was a bit like Rania, actually. Rania took a while. I didn't tell anybody. And in fact, it wasn't until Rania actually told everybody that I had MS, but I hadn't told anybody. So she revealed it to all. And I'm like, oh my God, people are saying to me, do you have MS? And I'm like, yes. So it's okay for people to know and be comfortable with it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And there are so many other people that have experienced very similar things to you. So talked about it, I suppose, and I wish I had sooner. Yeah.
What about you,
So-
Rania? How do you have any extra tips?
The only other extra thing would be that whatever you feel, even if it's the tiny little bit of inkling that something's not right, always go to the doctor. And if you don't feel like the first GP has given you an answer that you're comfortable with, go to another GP, because your health, I say it all the time, your health is your wealth. If you don't have your health and you don't catch something soon enough, you just don't know what's going to happen. And you might feel stupid continually going to different GPs and asking. But if it's really something that you don't feel right about, it is important that you get it checked and you just make sure that you are advocating for yourself, because no one knows your body, no one knows it like yourself, and no one feels the way that you feel. So if you do feel like something is off, it's just super important that you keep going and getting them checked.
Yeah.
And it's with a number of things, like, even getting your moles checked. I had a mole that I just was not comfortable with. One GP told me it's fine. I didn't feel comfortable with it because it didn't look right to me. I went to another GP, had it cut out, and they said, lucky you came and got it cut out now. So it's, just really important that you don't, like Marie said, don't be embarrassed, because the only thing that will be worse is you letting it go and not worrying about it. And then, something worse happens. And just like with what our mum did, if she'd listened in the beginning and didn't believe that there was something wrong with me, then they just said it was migraines, she'll be fine. Who knows when I would have been diagnosed, and who knows what more damage that the lesions would have done to my brain if she didn't keep pushing, because we really thought that there was something not right. And, follow Instagram and Facebooks and MS Get Involved. Yeah.
Follow.
Yeah. So how do you work out, two things I had with that one. The first thing I think was that that it's also really helpful to write things down. I've started doing it a little bit more as well too, just to go, right, these are my main points, and bring them in and say, right, these are, and I found it really good when I came into clinic and had their stuff written down as well too. It's so logical, but yet so few of us do it as women. And then you get there and you kind of feel disempowered, and you don't feel like you've got, your full kit on. And so I think writing it down can help that. And even sometimes putting on a mental sort of armor that says, I'm going to be brave enough to have these conversations, because these conversations are hard. So so I even say it to my family. They're all men, but I say, put on your big girl pants and off we go. We're going to have to be brave and have this conversation to do that. And it takes real bravery, because they're things that you're not sure about. You're not sure if they're MS. You're not sure if they're not MS. Let's face it, MS can be really weird. And so I think it's just they're probably my top tips. Write it down, because then at least you've got that to fall back on when most of us feel like there's a little bit of an unequal relationship between neurologists and ourselves, and even GPs and ourselves, and you kind of you worry that they're busy, they're waiting. You've been waiting for an hour, and you don't want other people to have to wait as well too. So you don't, you lose all your sense of, now I know what I'm going to talk about. So I feel like I've said it a million times to write it down, but I think that it really helps, and also to have that sort of I know, like you both have said, I know I need to keep pushing this, and I need to keep on this sort of on this. That this is not. I know myself and I know my body, and I need to trust that I am in the list. Cannot keep on telling that story. So Marie, you were going to tell us something. You look like you're.
No, I was just about to say how my memory. I thought I was getting dumber. I'm a secondary teacher, and I thought, oh my gosh, if this continues, I'm not going to be able to work anymore. And it was a fear, it was real. And I remember telling my GP, and they said, oh, you'll be fine, don't worry about it. And I'd walk out as though nothing had been answered. And I honestly, I would cry all the time. I'm like, oh my God, I can't work. Because I remember I couldn't even remember the word. It was there in my head, but it wouldn't come out. And then I started to write things down. So I was teaching, my year 12s, and I would actually write everything that I needed to say and make sure it wasn't forgotten. And I just thought this was insane. And MS Limited were the ones that actually said to me, you're not crazy. This is actually quite normal. And this is something that a lot of women and men go through because it's what happens. And I went, are you kidding me? And I think I cried when she told me, because I thought, oh my God, I'm not crazy. I'm not insane. This actually is happening, because I started to doubt it was happening to me. And maybe I thought I was going a bit mental as well. And the best things that I could have done was be told that I'm normal, it's okay, and actually do exactly what you just said, write stuff down. And then I went on, I did Lumtrada, it was the best treatment I ever did. And all of a sudden I woke up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not foggy anymore. This is awesome. So I feel like what you just said, I've totally gone through that, and I felt like I was insane. A little bit.
Now, Rani, I do know that you're excellent at sharing information on Instagram. But one of the things, when we talk about knowing each other's story, where to get information, information can empower, but it can also be really destructive, and it can be very unhelpful because you can get lost in it all, and we don't need to know everything about everything. So how did you and how do you now work out what's good information, what's not good information, and how can you use it to help yourself rather than make it harder?
Yeah, I have had to tell myself that Google is not always your friend, because you often, might be feeling things with MS, and then you'll Google, what is this symptom? And then it tells you that you're dying and you have stage 4 cancer. So I think that it's important to, get rid of the noise. You have to really, whatever's wrong, you need to know who the experts are and then go and seek help from them. What I always do is, whatever I'm feeling, I have an occupational therapist that is provided by MS Limited that I speak to on a weekly basis. If I ever have any concerns about my health, I always speak with her and ask her what she thinks. If she's unsure, she asks her experts and everyone around her that have more information, and then she'll send me either researched articles or something that is not just a random has written it on Google. And then if I'm still not happy with that answer, I will always seek out either neurologists. We always had access to you via email or mobile. We now have access to another MS nurse that we're able to email or call. I'll always go to her as well. And I think, it's just important to know what I guess is researched, proper research, and what is just hearsay. So, there's lots of things also with what diets to go on, what vitamins to take. But I think it's all you know what is good for you, and you know what can help you. So as long as you're getting information from the right sources and trying things that you think will be good for you, I think that's the most important thing. And I think it's always great to ask people their opinions and what they've tried and what they think, but it's also your own judgment, and you always should go with what your gut feels like. I think I've made many decisions based on what feels right to me. I know before you actually left clinic, Galenia just stopped working for me. I couldn't go on Tysabri because I was high positive for JC virus, and I was traveling to Lebanon, and you weren't comfortable with me having a dose of Tysabri and then going off to Lebanon. And Ocrevus was still not available. So the in-between time there, trying to, navigate through that, I came to you guys told me what the best thing to do was, and I had to go with my gut, because I didn't feel like, you said I could go on Tysabri, but I could go overseas and end up dying from the JC virus. It didn't feel right to me, so I didn't take it. And I stayed off Galenia, and in my gut, I felt like it was right to just not be on anything for a little bit until Ocrevus came out, because that's what after all the research that I did with all the articles you sent me, I felt like that was what would be right for me. And then that's how process of elimination, was able to come to the decision that Ocrevus was the next best option, not Lemtrada either. And it has been. So I think it's a mixture of everything. There's no one way wins all. I think you need to know yourself, have a good sense in your gut, and seek out the professionals that you have around you.
Yeah, I think, and I think what I'm hearing as well is that sort of that person who can be a filter. You know, it doesn't really necessarily matter who it is, but that trusted filter who you can say, okay, I've read this information. I've read this. Most people read information with their heart before they do with their head. And so that, you know, you read it with your heart and you think, and you take it on board because you're worried and you're fearful and you're scared before you kind of process it with your head. So I often look at information and think, am I reading this with my heart? I'll pause and I'll think about it with my head. And then go to the trusted filter. And I think that's really that person who will be able to say, yeah, no, that makes sense, or pursue that, or, hey, no, remember that's how you felt a bit last week, and you just kind of, so it's great that MSL has been able to be a filter and that there are nurses to be a filter, but I've also known lots of other people who really depend on other people in their lives, their girlfriends, other people that they've met with MS. Even GPs can really be a bit of a trusted filter as well. And access to that person can be so important. So when you, like Google isn't always right, but it's helpful because it can give you that sense of, yeah, no, I thought this wasn't right. And now I want to pursue it a little bit more. And I've run this through my filter. and that's been, you know, Marie, you talked about how important your husband are and your mama. And they're also the people who, I guess, when we're talking about opening up the conversation, you've got someone who you can say, this is what I'm really, you know, this is what I'm worried about, and have that sort of trusting, open relationship as well too. So the conversation can be lots of different people, and sometimes different conversations are about, you know, different things, you know, different times and different things as well too. So yeah. So what sort of what sort of conversations do you think, Marie, have been really hard for you to have? We've talked about the babies, but what other conversations have you found really hard to find someone to talk about with?
At the very beginning, I was married before I was diagnosed. So I actually said to Joe, I'll never forget it. I said to Joe, you don't have to stay with me. You didn't sign up for this. This wasn't something you signed up for. And I remember I actually ran away and I hid because I actually thought I wasn't worth, there is no way that anyone would want to stay with me. I mean, this disease is long-term. I knew someone who had MS already, and she was miserable, and I thought that's what was going to be me. I thought that's what my life was going to be like, and I didn't want to talk to him about it, and I didn't want to tell my mum, and I didn't want to tell anyone. So I built this facade. So I remember my first year of having MS, I didn't talk to anybody about it, and it actually caused a lot of problems. And I think when I finally said it to my husband, and he just looked at me and goes, "Are you stupid?" As if. And I wish I had done it sooner, because for that first year I was an absolute mess. And I broke down at my auntie's house a year after being diagnosed. I'll never forget it. And I needed that. So that whole, you know, not knowing what my life was going to be like, not knowing what my body was going to be like. Am I going to end up in a wheelchair? Am I going to be up on my feet? I didn't know. And I having those conversations, and I didn't know how to deal with it when I tell anybody about it, when I couldn't deal with it myself, because I didn't know. And that was so hard. And I think really that was the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with, because I didn't want to put him through it. I didn't want to put my mum through it. I didn't want to put my sisters through it, my brother, nobody. I didn't feel like they deserved it. And I really struggled with that. I really, really did. And because there was nobody to talk to, like I wasn't with MS Limited, I wasn't with at Box Hill, I kept everything in, and it was very dangerous. I'm so glad it didn't go. I didn't sort of like self-harm myself or do something stupid, because it was a possibility, because I felt alone. I know I felt very, very alone.
So how would you open up that conversation with your family now? Because you know it's so important, and I think we so many people underestimate how resilient the people in their lives are, and they're not going to fall apart, and they are actually kind of, you know, Joe's still hanging in there.
He's awesome. I know. I mean, I remember the very first day very well when I was diagnosed. I remember calling my auntie and telling her that she needed to go to talk to my mum, because I'm worried about her. I wanted her to be safe. I didn't care about me. I wanted my mum to be okay. I wanted my husband to be okay. I wanted everybody else, but and I was kind of second. I always put myself second. But I think now, I think it's really important to know that you're not alone. There are so many people out there that can help. And I thought I was. I didn't think there was anybody else experiencing what I was experiencing. And I think it's really important for people who are recently diagnosed to know, you know what, there are so many people that are out there going through the same thing. And if you talk about it and open up the conversation, they'll be very surprised with the response. And that's why I love what Rania does as well, because I think I read some of the comments sometimes and they go, I've just been diagnosed. And I think it's awesome to see that people are opening up and they're not feeling alone, because it's not very nice to feel alone, because I really did.
Yeah. And Rania, was your experience the same in terms of experiencing that initial conversations and having and opening that up to tell all people at work and all the rest?
Yeah. When I was diagnosed, I was 19, so I was not married. I was in a relationship with my now husband, and it was just a very awkward time, because I feel like I'd just come out of finishing year 12. I was so excited about life, and then bang, I was just, there's something wrong, and you don't know how it's going to impact you for the rest of your life. But you have been told you might end up in a wheelchair, or you don't know what's going to happen. So I think that, and I really struggle with opening up to people that are close to me. Till this day, I don't really tell anyone what I'm feeling, and I often don't even share it with my husband, because it's just something that I really, really struggle with. So I think speaking to a third party has been what has the catalyst to help me dealing with this. I never thought that it was okay to speak to a psychologist or my occupational therapist. I didn't think that was something that was good to do, I guess, back in the day when I was just 19. But once I reached out to someone and had that third party to speak to, I felt like that was what helped me, because then I wasn't a burden. I felt like I wasn't, I know I'm not, but I felt like I wasn't a burden on my family, or I wasn't a burden on my husband. And they were able to really have that view that was outside of anyone that was close to me. So that has been something that has really helped me through those difficult conversations, because they are difficult to have. And sometimes if you don't feel like you can speak to your family, a third party is always someone that will be able to tell you and be unbiased and subjective. So that's what helped me with that particular difficult conversation and others. But I think more recently what I've been experiencing, especially when I got pregnant, which I found really interesting, was the conversation about having MS when you look so well on the outside. So, you know, for a lot of people with MS, it is an invisible disease, and you look fine on the outside. You look happy, you look healthy, you're smiling all the time. So people just don't understand when you say, I'm not well, or I'm not feeling well, or I'm tired all the time. They think that you're either lying, making it up, or just lazy. And I often, before working from home was acceptable, I often had comments from people at work that I would hear that, oh, she's so lazy, she's young, what's wrong with her? Why is she working from home? And then when I was pregnant, everyone was like, oh my gosh, you're pregnant. You must be so tired. Let me look after you. Let me make you food. And I just found it so interesting that because people, I guess, understand pregnancy and understand that it is something that's difficult and can impact you, they get it, and that they're, you know, more willing to help. But before that, because I look so fine on the outside, it's just so difficult to have the conversation and get people to understand that, you know, I might look fine on the outside, but, you know, the MS can be wreaking havoc on the inside, and no one gets what the nerve pain is like, or what numbness actually feels like, or what the fatigue is like, or the mental anguish for having to deal with a chronic illness year after year. So I think that was a huge reason also why I started my Instagram page and becoming an ambassador, because I really copped it when I first, you know, was in the workplace and had to begin working from home. I don't like to use the word bullied, but like, you can feel bullied because people just think that you're faking it or lying. I had to use a disabled car spot once, and I got extremely verbally abused so bad that I was scared he was going to hit me, and no one helped me because they thought he was right, because I would walk into the shopping center, and then I walked into the shopping center and I just started crying because it was the most horrible experience to feel like I'm going through all of this and no one gets it.
Mm, mm, mm. And they are in the workplace. They are really hard conversations to have because exactly as you said, you know. And I did find as well too, it's finding descriptors in a language to be able to interpret what you're feeling, and that's really hard with MS, to be able to say it's like this and it's like this. And I found that the best resource was other people living with MS to say stuff like, you know, relate it to something else, or I'd have these moments where that's, oh yeah, you know, or they'd give a great analogy of what it felt like. But it's hard to find those words to be able to describe and to have those conversations and to say this is what I'm experiencing, and like you said, the hidden symptoms, to be able to describe those so that other people understand it, and we do. A bit more reflecting on what you said, Marie, as well too. You know, women do feel the need to be pillars of everything, you know, like of families and all that sort of stuff, and not have those times when you can say, but this is how I'm feeling today, and actually I just need to have a rest. And so they are, you know, they are really hard conversations to have, and like you said, in the workplace, to explain that why you need to work from home and not have a sense of, you know, well, you're left out. And you know, COVID's good for that in terms of working at home and understanding that hybrid model has certainly made that acceptable. That which is great for lots for women, I think, in some ways, except for that, you know, we still have to manage families and stuff. But yes. So it's really hard to find the right language, and that's where stuff like sharing things on Instagram, sharing languages, speaking to people all the time, and say, "Oh, that's bang on! I can use that." You know, like you said, the fatigue is like early pregnancy fatigue, and then you've got all the women who have that, who identify and go, "Yeah, that was terrible. I was under my desk having that." I had a little pillow and a little, when I was pregnant, I was so tired, and so I thought, that the fatigue must feel like that all the time, that overwhelming. I really just want to get under my desk and have a little sleep now. Or I used to duck into a clinic room and just have a nap because I was so tired. But yeah, so yeah, yep. Yeah. So, any other tips? So we're going to thank you so much for your time. We will wrap it up, but and just seeing your beautiful baby girl asleep there,
She's
Rania.
asleep.
I just feel like it's just such a blissful thing to see, isn't it? So I want you to, by Marie, tell us some of your tips for, making it through being a woman and having MS. What sort of things now, if you go back to your younger self and first diagnosed, what would you say to your younger self that you think, oh, just do that?
I think a little bit more positive. Knowing that it wasn't the end of the world, and actually starting eating better, looking after myself, taking I wish I would have started taking the multivitamins that I take now back then, because it's only with the help of Rania, actually, because she takes a wealth of stuff. She's like, yeah, take this little bit. And I wish I would have done that then, because maybe I would have seen better results with my memory. I mean, I don't know. I suppose really try to be healthy. You don't have to run marathons. Just get into something that you're comfortable with in terms of exercise. For me, Pilates is my thing, and I wish I did it then. And I was really focused on my mobility, and exercise makes you feel better. Diet. And it's not a diet, just a healthy, just healthy living, I suppose, is really good. I think everything was very extreme for me. So I got diagnosed and I went on these stupid grain diets, and then I did all these crazy things, and I just wish there was more. It was a lot more controlled, and I did things regularly, and I did make lists, and I did set myself some goals, and maybe write stuff down a lot more than what I have previously done. Now I'm doing all of that, and just find someone you can talk to straight away, and that way you don't feel alone, and you have someone to talk to. And if anyone is listening and is not with MS Limited, get onto them, because the OTs that we have are the best people we can cry with, and is this MS, or should I be doing something about this, and just talking, making sure, don't go silent. I did go very quiet at the beginning, and just make sure you're talking, and find someone that you are comfortable with and talk, and just be healthy. And yeah, I don't know. Is that a good enough?
No, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. And I think the reason why both of you came to my mind when I had this conversation is because both of you are really good at it. both of you make sure that those sorts of messages get through, and that you both have in different ways advocated for yourself and really worked your way through the journey. Established which supports are going to be best for you. You are both phenomenal women who have been able to, and to be able to witness that strength in being able to say, no, I'm not going to let you listen to this, Joe. I'm not going to let you have this conversation, and I'm not going to stop with this GP, and I'm not going to stop. And both of you have really done that to times when I think lots of people might have put up barriers for you, that have both said, in both of your stories, perhaps different barriers, but for you, Rani, it was, I am going to Lebanon, and I am doing this, and I am doing this, and we need to make it work for you. So I think that you're both very inspirational in the way that you've been able to do that. And thank you, Rania, for sharing all your Instagrams, because I do know that they, as you said, they can make a difference to people, creating languages, creating strengths, and we're very happy at MS Connect to be able to help people. Everyone has different barriers, and everything throws up different, and not everyone has a nurse, not everybody has that filter person, and so if you need, or an even OT, and so there's you can usually find someone. Hopefully everyone can find someone to be that person for you. So any last words, Rania? Any of your last tips?
My last tips would just be, keep a positive and open mind, because usually when you're positive, you can see through all of the barriers, And just remember that no matter what, everything will be okay. And yeah, lean on those people, whoever they may be for you. Lean on them. And I always say to myself, no matter what is going to happen, no matter what is happening, everything will be okay. And it's got me through 12 years. So
Well, lean on them and sometimes give them an almighty shove. When necessary.
Yeah.
So if we have any questions after this, people can put them on socials through MS Connect as well too. There's the number coming up for MS Connect if anyone should need it, 1-800-042-138. And again, thank you for me personally to be able to share your stories and be part of your lives all along. But I think the rest of the world now gets to have this gets to have this privilege, and so thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you guys for everything that you do. Thank you.